going down. Already.
How's it going, everybody? This is Jordan Pacheco from the Glad Trad Podcast. I have been waiting for an episode like this because it's not very often that you meet somebody that right off the bat you just know is interesting. And Elizabeth, I know I'm already doing you way more service than you probably deserve. But the first time we met, I was just like, yeah, she's coming on. So we are going to get off to the races. I have my good friend Elizabeth Vennari, who is a Buffalo native. So actually, we know some people. We have some people in common. But happy that you're on, Elizabeth. How's it going?
Oh, this is great. I'm really excited about this.
we got a lot to talk through, but first I'm going to pay you another compliment. I've met different people, kind of different socialite people in my life. In fact, I would say my little sister is one, although Olivia, I remember that we scooped alpaca poop together. But from the first moment I've met you, I was like, oh, this girl's like old school Buffalo. I absolutely love that. So I just wanted to pick your brain about Catholic arts, culture, a little bit of your background. You've done a lot of fun stuff. You're still doing a lot of great things and you have opinions and I love reading and hearing about them all the time. So I figured, yeah, come on, why not?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I have to say now that I work for the church officially, I feel like I have to do the disclaimer at the beginning that my opinions are my own and not representative of my boss, the Catholic Church, or the Institute of Christ the King at large.
That would be more controversial if I didn't know you working for the Institute of Christ the King means your opinions are probably more tame than you realize. If you were at a plain Jane diocesan Novus Ordo or something, maybe you'd be wild. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And this is the Glad Trad podcast. So I feel like that's okay. And there's nothing crazy, but I guess we'll see. We'll see.
Right. You know how it works, right? Every conversation online between two Catholics, you just 10 minutes later, it divulges into Israel, always the Jews. So I don't know what controversial opinion. Yeah. No, thank you.
I'll give that a pass.
That's right. Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about your background, because like I said, I think we come from two different worlds, but I think have a lot in common, but there's a lot of your background that I very much like. And, down from knowing common people, including part of my road to tradition, we'll get into this, happens to do with your family, indirectly, I would say, but that's something that no one ever realized that was so important. So where'd you come from?
Yeah. So I'm a Buffalo native, originally grew up there. My parents, when they got married, they moved out to Buffalo because my dad, who a lot of people know in the trad circles, John Vennari, was he was the editor of Catholic Family News and speaker with Father Nicholas Gruner through the Fatima Center. And he was their U.S. headquarters were in very close to Niagara Falls, so kind of within the Buffalo, Niagara type of area. So we grew up there, and I think that there is. I'm one of the kids that actually grew up all the way in tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So did my siblings. Were also lucky enough to be one of those families where all three siblings are still practicing the faith in a situation where you grew up traditional Catholic. So homeschooled all the way through. And then I did a lot of music and art when I was growing up. So I had this sort of odd arts vocabulary that I could never kind of make sense of. And got a music degree and an economics degree, and then worked in banking. Yeah, right. There are two opposite ends of the campus. So I would end microeconomics at 10:50 and then sprint my 12-minute run to get to music theory at 11. So I did that, and I worked in corporate for a couple of years in Buffalo, and then in New York City, and then back in Buffalo again, and then ended up out here because my sister got married to a person in St. Louis, and they sort of convinced me to come out for a trip. Yeah, and then I got out here, and the thing is that I hope that this is the thing that sells people on St. Louis is, and we can kind of, I don't know, talk about this because you also moved here recently.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that sold me was the fact that they my sister and now brother-in-law dragged me out here, and they were like, hey, come out for Easter. And I was like, I don't want to, what's in the Midwest? And they were like, there's a fancy ball right after Easter. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll come. Okay. So I came out, and at the time I had just gone through a pretty bad breakup, and my world was rocking a little bit. And so when they suggested that I moved here, I was malleable to the idea and found myself out here in July. So I've been in St. Louis since end of July, and I'm working for the Institute of Christ the King Church here in St. Louis. I guess I don't know. Do I start here? What else should we say?
That's great. I mean, what's funny too is we're both kind of relatively new to town, but you already feel like a regular.
Oh, good. Well, you feel like a regular too, but I think it's because we got here at the same time, so we don't know what it's like to not. I don't know what it's like to not have Jordan around in the St. Louis area.
Vice versa.
Well, we met at the what was it? The Crash the Ball.
Pro Life Gal, the Crash the Ball event. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cool, but I had heard your name before I actually met you, and this is sort of this is how I guess all of the legends are ending up in St. Louis. Do you know who else is out here? Do you know the religious hippie? Do you follow the religious? Oh
yeah, I know. She's here.
Yeah, she's at our church.
Really? Have I seen her around? Hey, you want to come on the Glad Chad podcast? You want to talk shop? I'll find her. I'll corner her. I'll bully her. Yeah, Amber, come on. I'll bully you into it.
She's really cool. She's really
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
point her out to me next time. That's wild.
Yeah. All of the celebrities are out here now. So I remember my brother-in-law was like, yeah, Jordan Pacheco's out here. And then you showed up. And then I was like,
your brother-in-law said that? He said my name. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. JW, what's your brother's-in-law?
Yeah, JW. Yeah.
God bless you, JW. Thank you. Man.
What a nice guy.
What a cool dude. I don't think we've ever officially hung out. We're going to have to. Elizabeth, so here's the thing, and you kind of said it in your story there, but for a lot of us, myself included, like I grew up, I'm a cradle Catholic, but I grew up going to the Novus Ordo. I didn't discover the traditional Latin Mass till like my late teens and really didn't come into it till my early 20s. There are so many people. I'm meeting a lot of converts and reverts who weren't even aware of the Mass. And so the fact that not only did your family were trad from cradle to grave, but your dad and his work at the Fatima Center was so influential for a lot of us. Like when I think about my own story of just becoming more aware of the depth of Catholicism, even before I really understood tradition, I recognize now that the Fatima Center probably were the first traditional-minded, like your father and Father Gruner were the first trads ever encountered. Because I very fondly have these memories of like middle school and high school on YouTube. And I remember like Father Gruner giving some conversation about Fatima and something about the SSPX. That was the first video I'd ever really heard about something like the SSPX or just, any of these like kind of trad ideas that are out there now. So it's kind of weird. Like when I met you and we were hanging out and I was like, Vennari, and it like put it together, but just how cool it is. So what was it like kind of growing up in a household that, where a lot of people like kind of went along with the changes, even if they were, in their hearts, traditional, more minded? What was it like actually growing up to a household that was really counterculture for all the rest of the 20th century and into our time?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many people ask me this because now, especially, I guess Dad came to St. Louis a number of years ago. So people who have lived here for a long time have been like, oh my gosh, I met your father. I met your father when he was still alive. God bless my soul.
Wow.
But it was just Dad. Like we grew up in a family where it was just Dad. And we knew he was a big deal because we would be at all of the conferences and people would come up and they would want to talk to him. And there'd be a line to talk to my dad, which was crazy because he just lived upstairs in our house.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. It's funny. We have, because the thing is that I think like when you revert to Catholicism, you're like, oh my gosh, I need God, or there's something missing in my life, or I've been sinning and I need to, whatever it is. And you start coming back and you start reading things and you read encyclicals and doctrine and philosophers and history. And then it all kind of, I think a lot of people when they're converting or reverting have this quest for knowledge that takes over their life. So they're very hungry for knowledge. And I got all of that throughout my life in little tiny consistent bits and pieces, which means that I feel like in many respects, I don't know things as well as some of the folks that like a lot of my convert friends. But that being said, it was like, I think it sounds like I had an unusual experience growing up in a trad center. Now, granted, as somebody who was doing arts and culture things, like I was in ballet class for most of my life. I was in viola and orchestra and string quartets and all sorts of other sorts of like artsy types of things. And so I was always riding this line of being in trad circles, being like the modern kid, because I was doing
viola, very modernist thing.
Well, right. Well, it's also more like the some of the people at our church where I grew up did not like the fact that we would put leotard and tights on once or twice a week, or more than that. Oh my gosh. So I have this like batch of like I didn't really fit in with the kids that were at my church, who were like a lot of country folk and did things like 4-H and raising rabbits and had their own sort of like insular community, by the way, raising alpacas.
I still think we would have been friends, by the way. But yeah, I did all that country fad stuff.
You might have been an outlier. But then on the other side, I was definitely too charchy for my music friends and my dance friends, because I went to church, I was homeschooled, I wore skirts and didn't wear skinny jeans, and like I had this sort of so it was just like it was weird to span the two worlds, and I thought that was very odd for a long time. And like I'm going to keep coming back to the fact about like how much I love being in St. Louis, and how this is sort of like an ongoing love fest between me and the city right now. But like the big thing for me is that for a long time we invested so much time into doing artistic things, but they never seemed to quite line up with church people. And I thought that was strange, because like historically the greatest art, the greatest music, the greatest, all of this is coming out of the like Catholic traditions and Catholic musicians and composers and things. And I was just like, how is it that I have this skill set that just like seems to be so far away from the church? And now that I'm here, it's all, especially with the Institute, there's so much artsy stuff. Like my office, I'm in fundraising, but my office is across from the music teacher, or the music director here. Yeah. So like, even though I'm not even though I myself am not doing as much music as I used to, I still have a space where I'm regularly listening to kids working on like singing and piano and things like that I like remember growing up. So there's like a part of my childhood that's like, it feels much more holistic being out here.
Well, and you kind of said something in there, right? Which is, for a lot of us, like, the arts has been under attack. In fact, the video that's going to predate this podcast episode, I talked to Father Riley and Issa Tristan, who are from the Thomistic Artists Guild. They just started up in Los Angeles. And their entire point is almost in their name, right? It's this reclamation of the fine arts in the lens of Catholicism, because we have been historically the patron of the arts. And it seems to me like, I've almost divided kind of the waves of tradition as I can kind of understand them. Part of it's a historical perspective, because I wasn't there since like the time of the changes or a little bit before. I've come on, like I call it like in like the second wave, like the post, like Samorum, late Samorum kind of days, right? Yeah. So for me, I think that what I understand is like there are so many people who kind of have embraced traditional Catholicism, what that looks like, really from almost like an intellectual kind of perspective, right? Like the depth of the faith, a response to the Second Vatican Council, or maybe to traditions that have been lost to the sands of history. And now I think that as people are, I find traditional Catholics are, in a lot of dioceses, just more accepted. They're more the norm if any Catholics remain. Even I have friends who, even if they attend the Novus Ordo, like I could talk to them about Latin and they're not like, "Oh, Jordan, just get a tambourine." What you doing wrong?
Where's your guitar, bro?
Yeah, I don't find any of that, right? Like anyone under 40, nobody's doing the Orans posture anymore.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I'm meeting people who are like raising their children traditional. And for them, it's like the first generation that's been raised traditional Catholic. You're an exception to this, right? But it's like for a lot of my friends and peers, it's their children are the first being raised since our grandparents in a lot of ways, or parents. Yeah. And I think that that's a good kind of fertile soil for now us focusing on just the beauty of Catholicism also. So it's not just like an intellectual response to the world going crazy. Now we can actually help reclaim the world through fine arts, right? Through proper culture. So I find the Institute being very central to a very storied place like St. Louis very important. And like you being part of that too. I'm like, yeah, of course. Totally makes sense.
Well, it's so interesting that you say that, you pointed out, because I think that there is, to some degree, each generation, since like the 50s, really, each generation that has raised their kids in some level of affiliation with the Catholic Church. And I say that like kind of carefully, because what I'm going to say is like everybody comes with some degree of whiplash that they've experienced.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
The parents that had the old mass ripped away from them, and then the kids that grew up with the new mass, and maybe they either stay in that sphere, or they left the faith completely because it was they were just sort of discouraged by it, or they realized that they needed something more, and then they got yanked back to tradition, and then their kids. So there's this tenuous relationship with the mass. So we're also in the middle of the things. Like I think right now we have like our generation of families that are getting married and having kids are in the church. I am very hopeful that we'll be back to sort of this is what it's like to live a normal Catholic life. And
That's
it's not,
exactly
it is definitely countercultural. But there's like, we have a better shot at it, I think, to be sort of like normal and calm and not yanked around, because we've had a couple of years to figure it out. But it's also coming at a time where we're how many generations away from like, in the 1940s, like the amount of people that were at least like nominally some religion is so much higher than it is now. So we're several generations worth of atheists also, which means that in a lot of other ways, like we have a chance of doing things normal and raising normal Catholic children in an environment like St. Louis. I really want to talk about community tonight.
I'm glad. We're gonna. We're doing it now. Let's hit it.
Because it's like there are Catholic communities where people are prioritizing living close to the church, being there on a daily basis, or at least on a like several days a week basis, that are prioritizing their lives to be around the church, and it is very normal. And there are other people that are doing that too, and that is also normal. It feels normal. And it's also happening in a place where we have more atheists than ever. These are happening in like St. Louis is not a conservative city by any stretch. It may be not a conservative or technically a red state, but the city itself is very, very forward thinking, very liberal, very progressive, which means that we have this sort of like insular experience that is good, but it's also like at more odds than ever with the rest of the city and obviously like the rest of the world. Yeah.
So let's hit it. And so maybe you'll join me for this video. I'm very surprised by how much I've genuinely enjoyed St. Louis. I was going to come out here regardless. When I heard that the Augustine Institute was moving out, people had different reactions. And mine was like, man, I could use a fresh change of scenery. Like, I love my family being out here, but like, I'm kind of ready for a new adventure. And I've surprised myself with how much I don't think I'll ever call myself a Midwesterner. I feel like that's just a weird term. And I'm always going to be a cowboy from Colorado. But but genuinely, St. Louis has just kind of a beat, a culture. And part of it also is, with St. Louis, so before I get into it, maybe I'll make this video with you, because I've always wanted to make a video talking about why I'm loving St. Louis despite of myself. And
let's do it. Let's do that.
I'm going to get us out from the screens. We're going to take a drive around these different places. And I want people to kind of see it through. Okay, we'll talk shop. That you're like the perfect co-host for it. Yeah.
This is like our version of comedians in cars getting coffee.
That's exactly.
It's just glad trads hanging around St. Louis area.
We're so back. No, but it is. And it surprised me. And part of it also is because there's a part of St. Louis, an element of St. Louis that I think feels like the ruins of the Roman Empire. Because you look at places in St. Louis, for those of you who don't know, some people are like, oh, Jordan, you're going to get shot. No, not really. But there are parts of St. Louis that, I might. I mean, but I'll shoot. The thing here is I can shoot back. It's great.
Oh, side note. Okay, so I moved here from New York State, which is very, very, very different. And my first thought was like, oh my gosh, I'm in Missouri now. I can learn how to shoot firearms. I was kind of excited about it too, because I was just like, oh, like the restrictions are so different here. And basically all you need to do in Missouri to own a gun is to be alive. Like that seems to be
constitutional carry, baby.
And so, but I was like, the part of me is like the East Coast of me is still like, if somebody pulls out their shotgun or whatever to show, like the East Coast instinct in me is to go, like to withdraw a little bit. Like I
have you been shooting?
Well, now I have been a little bit now. But I called because I knew that was my first instinct, and I was like, I'm going to freak out around guns, even though I really don't want to, just because it's like how I've been raised. Right. So I did some research. I called a gun range here in St. Louis, like out in the county. Because I saw that they did proper training, and I called the guy, and this guy answers the phone. He's like, "Hi, how can I help you?" And I was like, "Look, man, I just moved here, and I need to get some training. Because I've never really. It was I've shot rifles, but never handguns before, and I was like, I'd like to get some handgun training. I was like, I just moved here from New York, and he goes, "Oh, honey, you're in a better place now."
Yeah, God's country. So, are you deadly now? Like, if we're gonna be hanging out, and if someone like tries to accost you, you gotta pull the piece, and that's gonna be it.
No, not yet. I feel like I have to get my instincts kind of locked in a little bit more.
We should go shooting, because I feel like guns are like tattoos. If you get one, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna have 6, and you're gonna be like, "How did this happen?" Which is happening to me, by the way.
Well, oh no. See, okay, and I'm like, I got my. I'm looking both ways, but I got my one tattoo right after college, which my family found, and I was like, no, I just have to. I'm only going to do the one, and then so I'm realizing though that I have the itch to do a thing.
Yep,
so now I'm in the same, like the first time I went shooting out here, I was like, oh, that's amazing. Let's go back tomorrow. And he was like, oh, no.
Whoa. Listen, you can't afford this habit just yet. Okay.
No, I got to build up to it. And it's good. I went with somebody who has done proper training. And so I felt like I was in good hands, but it's like the other extreme that I'm not used to here is that everybody carries, and some people are really lax about the way that they, and they'll just they'll pull out their guns and compare while they're sometimes there's, if there's a party and there's alcohol involved, that really freaks me out. So now I'm seeing why people get antsy about it.
Okay. I was going to say, I just want the record to say I'm a pretty lackadaisical sanguine guy, but I am a rule Nazi when it comes to firearm safety. So when I pull out I should say my lawyers have advised me to say, if Jordan Pacheco owns firearms, he would own them legally. But if he does, and he shows guests of his, there usually isn't a lot of alcohol involved. But but definitely, but maybe some people have seen some things. I don't know.
Oh yeah. No, allegedly.
We should go shooting together. I'm so curious how accurate you are. I have to see this.
Oh, I'm pretty good.
Okay, she's a good shot. Ready to go to Annie Oakley over there.
We'll see. The first time I had the piss on my hand, and I pulled it up, and I realized that I was shaking, and I was like, what is it? And it wasn't it was very tame. It was very tame. I think we were shooting 22s.
Yeah.
And they're so they're very pew pew pew. But in my head, I was like, this is gonna send me flying.
Got a bazooka in my hands here.
I'm ready for the kickback to send me all the way to the car.
No, 22s are they're fun. I got I have a varmint gun, I call it. It's a 22 9-cylinder revolver. Real fun.
Sure.
You could hit the broadside of a barn with it, but that's why I think cowboy shootouts didn't result in a lot of bloodshed. It's just about how cool you look while you're drawing and firing. trained. So you know, you gotta.
That's kind of what they have here too in St. Louis. The worst part of St. Louis is like they'll all pull guns out at each other, but they don't really hit each other. You got you get caught in the crossfires, and that's really the dangerous part.
Yeah, usually the rough parts of St. Louis, it's not really known for high accuracy.
No.
You know, so we'll see. But no, that's it, right? So that is something about St. Louis that's very interesting. It is a feeling of like you look at these very beautiful buildings. Some of them are in disrepair. Some of them get overtaken by nature. People have to remember St. Louis has had a huge population decline in the last 30 years in particular as people have left for kind of the other areas of the county or different counties. And then on the other side of it, you know, it's like, I look at places and go, man, 100 years ago, this must have been the spot because St. Louis is very, very proud about its history. And as someone from Colorado, they don't shut up about it in like the best way possible. You're going to hear like, you'll go to a museum and it's like, St. Louis, what do they call themselves? St. Louisians. I don't know what
St. Louisans.
Oh, Louisans. Thank you.
I got corrected.
You got reprimanded. Oh, they'll tell you.
I said St. Louisians and somebody was like, that's not what you say. And I was like, okay.
What high school did you go to, fella?
And that's the other one.
Yeah. So they'll be like, you know, this was the gateway to the West. So it was thanks to us that we brought civilization to all those Indians and Mexicans in the poor West. And I'm like from Colorado being like, yeah, I guess that's true. Like, I think that part of Denver was probably built with St. Louis brick. So, okay, like you got us guys. They're like, yes, thank you. Like we are God's gift to humanity. Look at our beautiful mosaic cathedral. Like, yeah, we got it. Thank you.
I went to a concert at the cathedral last night, actually.
Yeah, you went. You were at the, there was the
Stile Antico.
That's exactly it.
They were on their world tour. By the way, and this is they're crazy. Like the cathedral downtown St. Louis, they have an enormous array of like good musicians, quality music, like world-class musicians. And as a choir nerd here, like Stile Antico was here yesterday. And then in the spring, Voces 8 and the Tallis Scholars are both coming in for concerts. And it's like,
the Vienna Boys Choir. I saw them last month at the cathedral.
Yeah. How was that concert?
Oh man, it was great. It was great. I heard that I had friends who went to the concert last night and they said that it was beautiful. I would have killed to hear that Miserere. I was invited, but I didn't end up going. Maybe I'll regret that later.
Yeah. But the other one's on your calendar though.
Isn't that the thing though? Isn't it funny? I feel like, you know, with St. Louis and you know, it is kind of a place. So with the decline of population and kind of looking out at the city, one thing I'm really, really amazed by is I think the core of the Catholic community. I see that in the arts. I also see that just in the people. And I think that it actually is really fertile ground for the church. St. Louis has gone through a contraction actually as a diocese, which really sucks. And I don't come from a place where that's happened. You do. So, you know, it's like kind of seeing like I'd say like, you know, the worst of we could say many things. The worst of the reforms, the worst of people's apathy for faith in the modern era, the rise of secularization. To see that actually affect a diocese is really unfortunate. But I think it also really reprioritizes the importance of the faith and making sure that it's not watered down. So somehow that is also coinciding with the fact that Catholicism is in general, I think, coming out of this identity crisis from last century. And part of that I really do see in St. Louis. Like I'm meeting more and more good Catholics and good Catholic families that I'm very much impressed by. And so when I think of St. Louis, I'm like, oh snap, I might have to lay down my roots here. Like I would totally march to that statue every year and go to like all these balls and the beauty of the mass out here. And I think it's something very much worth fighting for. Yeah.
I now that I'm here, I'm like, this is the spot. I didn't think I moved here kind of with the anticipation that I would go back to Buffalo after a few years. And once I got here, I was like, nah, this is it. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, that's right. It better be. Your family's all moving down here, it seems like.
I know. Or my mom moves by Thanksgiving, I think. I don't know when this podcast comes out. But when she gets released, she might already be out here.
That's awesome.
So,
hey, do people in Buffalo say shuffle on up or down to Buffalo at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just thought I'd ask.
No, somebody might say that who is living there for like the first time for a second, but no.
They tell them to shut up and eat like the buffalo wings with the what's that fancy blue cheese that you guys go on about? Buffalo style blue cheese.
Yeah. It's
glorified
good.
bar food. That's what Buffalo is, and I'm here for it. But that's what your cuisine is.
So, because Buffalo is very much a drinking town. Like we have
it is
so many breweries and so much.
As we sit in the Budweiser capital of the world.
I know it does feel like in a lot of ways that I'm home because like the Anheuser-Busch factory, or the headquarters or whatever, are like 3 minutes from here. Oh, by the way, for Christmas they dress up the Clydesdales there, and so
do they really?
We should get a whole group. Like they go ham for Christmas.
I'm so ready.
So very excited about that. Yeah, but like the other thing about St. Louis and I think why it feels so special is that there is a really strong tradition of arts here, and it really so much of it came from the fact that the 1904 World's Fair that coincided with the Louisiana Purchase.
We are obliged, by the way, to mention the 1904 World's Fair every time we mention St. Louis, just like we're obliged to talk about Budweiser and the statue and Forest Park. So just glad we hit the bingo card out.
Yeah. It's should we release a bingo card, a St. Louis bingo card for this new podcast?
We totally should.
Okay, let's talk. But because of that purchase, the St. Louis has been really like there's so many things that exist because of the World's Fair. So like the St. Louis Art Museum, which is really extraordinary and has some incredible artists there. That building was built for the World's Fair. Like that's crazy. Like when you look at that, it's like it looks like something like it looks like a model of like the Metropolitan Museum of Art or something like that. It's like it is a substantial building. And they built it literally to house the artwork for the World's Fair, and then it just stayed put afterwards. Good.
Oh, is that what happened? They brought all the art out, and they were like, "I guess it ain't going anywhere now."
Yep, they're like, we need a place to put it. There was another place that they had as well. I can't remember, but it's all in that Forest Park area. There's another building. So, and then there was other things too. Is like the St. Louis Women's Club was formerly a mansion. It's downtown in the sort of central West End, which is sort of the bougier part of the city. But the St. Louis Women's Club exists because they needed a place so all of the dignitaries coming to St. Louis, they were like, we need a place for their wives. And so they made a club for their wives. So they rented or bought, I can't remember. I think they bought a private mansion and converted it. And it's remained a women's club. And it's also like, it's a place where there is still like an aspiration towards the high arts. Like they have a French club there, and they have a bridge club, and they have people that come and teach like those sort of etiquette things that nobody teaches anymore, like napkin folding. It's like, so things like that exist here, and it's pretty normal. And so like, if you're in the arts world, you're doing like bougier things than normal. It's not just like, oh, go to the opera or go to the orchestra or like do kind of the everybody's gonna like roll up and see a Puccini opera. It's like there's there's a whole bunch of other like little tiny common niche.
I'm sorry, I'm smiling because the phrase that you opened that with was bougier than normal, and then you listed like for a lot of people like the upper echelon of hoi polloi. You Buffalo girl, you city girl, like I guess we're just gonna hey fam squad, let's roll up for the Puccini opera. Like. You're right, Elizabeth. Real normie over there.
We're going to see Tosca.
Again.
Oh my gosh! No, I know. But it's perfect. It's great. It's great if you're into the arts. It's also like it's great if you're a person that likes to do things and needs external things instead of like I when I first moved here, I was like, I'm going to make it a goal to go out and do St. Louis things regularly so that I don't become the person that just goes to work and then comes home and then eats dinner and then goes and does it again. Like I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to like get to know the city that I'm in. And so the first thing I did was I went to IKEA, which we don't have in Buffalo.
Which is very St. Louis. Very St. Louis.
Historical.
That's like somebody being like, okay, I wanted to like move to the South and really get the experience of like what it's like. So the first thing I did was I went to a KFC.
Yeah, Popeyes for chicken and waffles, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Well, no, it's funny. It's like when I moved here, it's like the two things that stuck out to me of like, oh, I can do these things now because I live in a place where they have them is IKEA and Top Golf.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to talk about the pedestals here. Here's Elizabeth, this like socialite girl, like very much into the high arts. It's all wonderful. And then here's Elizabeth, like white suburban mom, who's like, oh my gosh, you got to come out here. They have a Top Golf and an IKEA.
Yes.
Like, wow. Chardonnay. Civilization.
Although it's funny, I'm drinking my apple cider right now out of the Oktoberfest beer mug that I got.
That's how we know you're a real one. Yeah. No, that's what the St. Charles Beer Fest or whatever, Oktoberfest.
This is what it looks like.
Fire.
It's just like, it's great. It's plastic.
I want to break you down into your IKEA stuff because this leads to a trait about you that I very much like, which is the fact that you're a writer and you have a Substack. And I have a serious ton of fun reading about your adventures. Y'all should go totally check it out. What's it called, Elizabeth?
I think it's like Elizabeth Vennari Substack.
Wow. Very, very deep. How'd you come up with that name?
I sat for a long time and I tried really anything else. And that was
They're fun adventures. Because like your IKEA, you talked about going to your first IKEA and you know how to tell a story. It's really fun. So give me a little bit behind the scenes. Like what is the motivation for you choosing what adventure to write about and how does that actually work out?
Oh, and because it's like it's the heat of the moment. I've been a writer for a long time, and I like writing. But I find that it's very easy to, I don't know. I think writing is very much like a muscle. Like you have to flex it every day and you exercise it. And so I tried. This is my little plug, but I'm trying to be really good about like writing a thing every day. And one of the things that I use for that is this thing called 750words.com, which is like, the idea is that like you've got 750 words to write every day, which is the sort of the equivalent to 3 handwritten pages. And it doesn't matter what you write. It doesn't matter like whatever it is. It's like you just get into the habit of writing every day. And so when I am good at that and I'm like, just like getting the reps in because sometimes I'm like writing a story and sometimes I'm writing my grocery lists. But it doesn't matter because it all counts towards the 750 words for that day.
I like to think that like you'd open that up and Elizabeth is like, there I was staring into the edge of the abyss, broccoli, bananas, cup of mangoes.
Yeah. No, it's like, yeah. Don't forget to get gas today.
Yeah,
You're
also.
not going to remember tomorrow. Yeah. So, but one of the things that I've been so bad about it, and maybe being on a public platform right now will publicly shame me to get some more writing in.
Or I'll help, don't worry.
But I really wanted to move out to St. Louis and then write regularly about the things that I was going to. And sort of like have an arts and culture type of page where I was just kind of like talking about the experiences of either like things to do in St. Louis or just, just like culture reviews. Like I went to the opening night of the symphony a couple of weeks ago and I wrote about that finally. I told you I was going to have an article out about the festival, and I have not done that yet.
Still waiting.
So stay tuned. No, but the IKEA experience. So I don't know. It just came. Sometimes you got a winner of a story. It flows, and I won't spoil it for our single listener who may be still listening at this point. But
This is a pre-record. Nice try, lady. Also, that's very bold of you to think I can only pull a single listener. This show's canceled. We're done.
done. No more. I was at IKEA. I was so excited, and my first thought was like, oh, I'm gonna document my first time going to IKEA. And I got there, and I was I was walking around and I wanted to get the Swedish meatballs and they didn't have any. So I was disappointed about it. And then there was a guy sitting at the way down the other end of the hallway. And I made eye contact with him one too many times. I was trying to stare out the window, but he was sitting at the end of the hallway, facing me.
Strategic placement.
And I one too many times I looked and I made eye contact with him and he came over, walked all the way over with his food tray and sat down with me and talked at me for a goodish amount of time. And then I sort of I was, having a nice time, but then I was I'm actually I'm done now. So I'm going to go.
I'm done now.
I'm going to go take a look at the, I would like to walk around IKEA now. And he just goes, oh, I'll come with you. And I was like, oh.
Play on, playa.
Sure, man. And he did. And he came and he walked the whole IKEA with me. And then, and so I was walking away and I was all I wanted to do was go to IKEA, pick up some Swedish meatballs, have I wanted to get lost. I wanted to look at everything and whatever. And I ended up kind of on this pseudo date almost.
Yeah, IKEA dates that's date 4. Well done, Chad, shoot your shot.
Yeah, right. I got in there fast. No, so I don't know. When I find stories like that, I'm anything can be the funniest person that is generally telling some really mundane, stupid story, but it's all in the delivery, right? I think that I love reading stories that are inherently very boring. They don't really have too much. That's
one heck of a thing to start with.
But they're written really well. They're written really well, and I think that there's a story everywhere, but you might really have to dig for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This takes a lot of work.
as a filmmaker, something I very much admired about the written page is this. So you can go on for 3 pages about the pipe and the sort of tobacco your grandfather smoked as the pipe lays out in the sun. Mm-hmm. And as a reader, we'd be along for it. It could be written in such a way compelling, but it would be impossible. It would fail the film if you had 3 minutes focusing on the details of Grandpa's pipe and the pipe tobacco. You couldn't do it. I remember, this is going to sound so funny, but I guess it's true. Yes, I, Jordan Pacheco, have watched the Twilight films. More under coercion, but here we are. And
yes.
Before you ask me, wait 1 second. So I was telling my mom about it, who I didn't realize is a big fan of the books, which was wild. Also, Mom, we're gonna have another conversation about that later. But I'm sitting with Mom, and I'm like, this movie's weird because what happens is they make eye contact, and then Edward's like, oh. Leaves or whatever.
Right.
Or they kind of look at each other. And my mom's like, it's not right because there's so much internal monologue going on and you just can't express that. And I'm like, got it. So the best way they did that is just kind of these weird kind of hanging looks on each other. Got it. Good to know. So I do love that about writing, right? That you can have an adventure about relatively ordinary, or if it was shot in film or in a different kind of way, it would be a mundane thing. But yeah, it is kind of, as you're talking about, a little adventure that unlocks us so much more.
Yeah, I remember exactly that scene too, because when I watched the Twilight film.
There she is.
Must have been about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and I was watching with a friend of mine who had read all of the books, and I hadn't read the books, but she was like, Elizabeth, we have to watch Twilight. It's it's a canon event, and I was like, oh my. So we did on vacation, and I was sitting there, and it's what's his name? Is it Robert Pattinson's character?
Yeah, Edward.
And he's turning away and I was like, oh, rude. And my friend was like, no, it's because she smells so good to him that he can barely contain his vampire instincts. And I was like, nowhere in the movie would I have guessed.
It's you tell it's written by a woman. She doesn't do. Sorry, it's not too bad. I'm going there. I'm guessing.
Rude.
She's such a what's her name? Kira or not Kira?
Stephanie something?
No, Stephanie Myers, but Bella. Bella started this whole Mary Sue craze. I think we finally got out of, because it's like she doesn't literally do anything. She just sits there and everyone wants her. Everyone hates her. Everyone wants to be her. She's like a regular girl in high school, but she's the girl in high school.
I feel like this triggered all of the like One Direction fanfic where someone is sitting in like the front row of the balcony and like Harry Styles looks up and they're like,
me out in the crowd.
The girl.
This is why they had to shut down Tumblr from back in the day.
Were you on Wattpad?
I was not. No, I was regular. I was cool.
Wattpad was like an iPod app. I don't know. It must have been a website, but it was like I found like actual PDFs of actual books that I wanted to read there. Wow. And also an enormous amount of fanfic that I didn't know existed. And I remember being like, oh, Percy Jackson, let me click in. And it was not about Percy Jackson. And I had to click out.
Yep. I feel like, I don't know if fan fiction's I'm sure it still is popular, although where do people go for fan fiction now? I don't know, because like, does the younger generation, do they still write fan fiction like we all did back in middle school? Some of us did in middle school, I should say. I didn't. I just took a bunch of amalgamations of stuff I liked and created my quote unquote own things, which were still very much the stories of like everything else. Avatar: The Last Airbender, I can make that too. That was me. That was my kind of.
Oh my gosh. For the record, I never wrote fan fiction either, because I was like, this is
you get her 2 Chardonnays in, she's like, okay, I wrote fan fiction.
Okay, but I didn't publish it. No, I never did. I was busy. Here's what I did. This is my thing. Instead of finding like stories to read about, I was like the garage band. I was like a garage band girly, and I was recording like loops of things on my viola and like doing arrangements. So I was like,
do you want to share with a friend?
Absolutely not. No. No,
I'm going to figure this out.
This can sit in the archives.
I'll make you a deal. If you share a good amount of your loops, I will share with you at least a bit of my 350-page book I wrote in middle school called Paths of Conquest. Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
about elemental kids in the world of Baltaria. Don't laugh. I'm going to be famous.
This is one of those things where it's like, I'm an author, but I'm not appreciated in my time.
I know what I'm gonna have to pull so we were talking earlier offline, because we're friends in real life, very wild. We were talking about A Confederacy of Dunces. And I love that book. I actually just reread the audiobook not too long ago. And but what's funny is that the publisher of it, what happened is that the author's mother came to him and gave the manuscript and said, my son has killed himself, but you have to read this book. And this guy got manuscripts from all over the place, right? And he was like, yeah. But the mom said, no, you have to read it because I think it's good, which he had heard before. Oh, yeah, everyone thinks they're kids. But he started reading it, and as he was describing it, he was like, well, I first started taking a few pages and I said, oh, this isn't bad. And he read a few more and he said, this is decent. And then he read it and he said, oh no, this might be great. And it is. It's a wild story. But I feel like having kindred spirits liking that so much, I don't think you could put it to film, but I love that story so much. So fun.
I think it's a good example of like the descriptions in that book. If, by the way, to the listeners here are and I'll do you a compliment and believe there's more than one listening, but there's
pre-record, you maniac.
If you haven't read A Confederacy of Dunces, you need to put that on your next read. It is unilaterally one of the funniest books I've read. I don't know that another novel like it exists. Yeah. And it's marvelous, but it's one of those books where the descriptions of what's going on and the thoughts and the backstory, there's just no way that you could just plunk it onto a screen.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think that so much would get lost in translation. So that's a read. That's a read for me.
That makes sense. So it was described in the introduction of the version I was reading. It's described as an absurd Thomas Aquinas meets a fat Don Quixote is how Ignatius G. Riley was described to me, which I think is very, very apt. But it also suffers because of that connection with Don Quixote. Don Quixote is one of those mediums that they say is unfilmable. Every time they try to film Don Quixote, it doesn't work. And I love Don Quixote.
Wrong.
That's exactly it. It's one of my favorite reads. But even I sit there and I'm like, okay, if I was like Jordan, you have unlimited budget, how would you film Don Quixote? I'm like, okay, I guess I could do a series, but like this would get lost in translation. And I feel like the tone wouldn't be right. So I can give you quixotic elements in other stories. I can give you Don Quixote in the modern world, kind of like an imitation, but I don't know if I could film it. I don't think that windmill scenes would be nearly as funny as reading it in the book. Or there's a line Sancho and Don Quixote are talking, and Don Quixote asks, it's gonna sound so dumb, but Don Quixote asks Sancho, like, are you sure about this? And he's like, yeah, it's sure, it's as dead as my mother is. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
well, there's even the fact that the book ends with Don Quixote dying, right?
Yes.
Like that's not a way to end a funny book.
No.
At least the way that we the way that we experience comedy, and Don Quixote is, oh my gosh, one of the funniest books. But the fact that it ends with a death, like it like you couldn't do the whole book. It would be it would end on it would end with such a bummer. Yeah. For like modern audiences. Even though it's like really in its like it. What is the word I'm looking for? Like in the context, because it was written by a Catholic, and so it has all of these Catholic undertones. The fact that Don Quixote ends the book with a good death is about the best possible way that a story can get told.
I was about to hit that. Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I've read it and I've listened to the audio of it, and I actually finished it in audiobook form. So I'm not ashamed to say this whatsoever. I was listening to it and I was gaming with a buddy as I was kind of listening to it, just kind of into it. And about halfway through our session, as he's like dying, and he's dying, he's used to a good death, which is the first time I've ever really seen that or read about that, like in literature. And I paused. I said, Matthew, bro, I got to call you back because I've spent now what seems like 30 hours with this guy, and I'm recognizing that he's dying like as a Christian. And I was such a hot mess because it's the beauty of characters, right? Like you spend pages upon pages, time upon time with characters. And in our worlds, like, your characters ride into the sunset. They usually get out of their jam, or they kind of suggest that the cycle is going to begin all over again, and we kind of leave them there. We don't have a lot of stories. There are a few really great ones, but when there are ones with characters you spent so much time and gotten to know them, and they die, but they die in such a beautiful way, it's spectacular. Like Cervantes really tied the room together on that. But man, it's still like, I remember being like, yeah, dude, I have to take like a moment. And I spent the rest of that evening just thinking through what all that might mean. Like, I'm like, man, are we all quixotic? Can we all die like this? Why am I still crying? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is like you finish Don Quixote and you need a bucket and a mop.
Yeah.
And by the way, okay, have you listened to Dr. David Allen White, who was he died earlier this year. He was one of the leading experts on Shakespeare, but he knew Cervantes. And there are the SSPX website has lectures that he gave at the seminaries, and he did I think it was a 4-part lecture on Don Quixote that is unbelievable. And if you like that, and if you're a podcast audiobook type of person, those those lectures were extraordinary. And he did those for Don Quixote. He did some for the Shakespeare plays. He did a whole bunch of things. But
I'm going to have you send them to me because that seems right up my alley. This whole conversation leads, I think, into a huge part of, obviously, I think what makes you, but just the importance of even being Catholics, right? And we said about it a little bit in the beginning. There is a very big importance that the arts, it is important for the church to, I think, be the patron of the arts. And it's important for Catholics to actively engage in the arts. And that, I think, scales up and down all levels of society. That could be as simple as your parish dances. That could be as magnificent, I think, as like the core of what makes a city like St. Louis or New York City or Chicago, like these kind of like these beacons of the arts. For those of you who haven't figured it out by now, you should have, because Elizabeth, this is technically your second video on my channel. Elizabeth was my dance partner for a very fantastic Christ the King ball that we did in October, and you're very graceful. I think your modernist ways of leotards have clearly paid off.
Yes.
A ton of fun, but obviously that's a very important thing for you, and I think it also kind of helps. I think with me, when I think of the arts, it's been very deep for my Catholic identity as a filmmaker, and even just being a patron of other kind of genres. Like, I'm a musician as well, so are you, right? And so many other things. Like, there is a great important patrimony that we seem to be defending here when it comes to the arts as Catholics.
Yeah. And it's hard to do it, period, because modern art, modern music strays, just like bluntly, without getting too much into it, strays very far from God, right? Like, it's modern art is not beautiful. Modern music is not beautiful. The things that we crave, good, truth, and beauty, which is, the transcendentals, we call them, but like originate from those principles, exist since before Christ. But the quest for goodness, truth, and beauty is something that we all inherently look for in some way. And so to be in a city where it's actually being not just preserved, but restored, right? Like, it's one thing to, the orchestra has existed for 1,000 years, or whatever it is, and people come and they go to the same old concerts, and it's sort of like this, it's like, it's a good institution to have, but nothing new is happening, and there's no revitalization. And here in St. Louis, there's actually a revitalization. So it was really cool, especially that festival, which was so cool. And I thought your podcast on it was really wonderful and did so much justice to it. But the fact that, it was like, we did it in a church basement, right? But we did it in a church basement where we had silks draped across the room, and we had a live band playing the whole time, that we had a formal dance caller, that we had a dress code that pretty much everybody adhered to. That there were tuxedos, there were tails even. And the thing is that people came out for that and dressed for it. And we had a record number of attendees there. It was, I think it was about 400 people when we were all done. Yeah, that
seems about right. We're crazy.
And it's like, that doesn't, like, where else is that going to happen? Right. Like, you have to, it shows both that, like, that what we're doing is a good thing. And second of all, that people really inherently crave it. Like, I always point to, like, there's a reason why we like going to weddings, because it's the one time, or, like a couple of times a year, you get to dress up beyond what your normal, like, fuddy-duddy day is. And that is exciting. And people spend all of that time getting their hair done and their nails and their makeup on and selecting the perfect dress and the shoes and the outfit and everything. And we like doing things like that, but generally doing that on a regular basis is something that's out of most people's, like, income threshold. Like, unless you're a member of, a big patron of the arts and you have reasons to go out every weekend. It's like, up here is where all of the rich people who really want to do this all the time exist. And then we exist somewhere down here at the bottom. And so to be in a place where it's where the commonplace things that we're doing are good, true, and beautiful, and are channeling towards higher art, higher culture, higher music, deeper appreciation of the things that we're rebuilding, it's so cool, Jordan. It is so cool. Like that's the thing. Is like I watched people I know here in St. Louis buy their first tuxes to go to this event. Right. Yeah. Like that's amazing. Now you've got your tux for life. But like that's extraordinary to go to a ball in a church basement, which is like the basic of what we're doing. But once you actually see what's going on, oh my gosh, it's so much more.
Well, and it reflects, I think, a bit of God's nature, because one thing about whether it's studying theology, the Mass, certainly, and, humans are made in the image and likeness of God. That gives man reason, but that also means that man is the only creature that has the arts. And I think that, Thomas Aquinas talks about proper leisure. I find that the arts to be such there's a reason why people say that music is the language of the soul, because I think that the arts speaks to this eternal part of us, which is why, again, we can dress up the stories of biblical stories from our own history in different kinds of ways, but yet they somehow still speak eternally to us. Like, it should frustrate, I think, a lot of materialist people that we are still drawing inspiration from biblical stories, and that if we could represent them in film or in plays or in music, that still speaks to us. Because I think that demonstrates the eternal nature that man's soul has. But when it comes to this particular issue, all these things draw us up. They draw our eyes up to the ideal and to the better. And so, as you kind of said, we live in a world, especially our world now, right, where I remember, like, I was a public school kid, right? And I talked about this a little bit in my video. And I remember for homecoming dances, there would be guys who like grew up and like for church or for different functions, they already had suits, and their parents or fathers were very particular about making sure the suit fit decently, that they presented themselves well. There were kids who showed up like very disheveled, deliberately hated wearing suits and ties, and that was like an accepted part of our education growing into young people. And so now you live in a world where like it's, if I tell you how many like yoga pants and bonnets and whatever, like you see on a daily basis, it's like, there's no dignity of dress. There's no dignity of like the kind of custom. There's no, and I do think we are naturally drawn to the good, the true, and the beautiful. You don't have to explain why a sunset is beautiful. You don't have to explain why Mozart is Mozart, although it might take you a second to understand it. But it's very easy, I think, to cloud our humanity with garbage, right? With fast food of bad music and bad art. And so it's actually, I can understand, like, some people have to really work hard to retool their brain to appreciate beauty because they've never experienced it before. So if you're accustomed to eating fast food all your life, the first time that you might have something that's like good for you, like a nice, like some grilled chicken or something, you might be like, oh, I want my arteries clogged. But
it's disgusting.
It's disgusting, right? It's like watching like kids who only eat dino nuggets. I can't eat anything else. But that is like, I think, such the core of it. And I have friends, I'm very fond of them. I get that these are all very big conversations. It's kind of a meme on my channel. Like, I always ask people, like, do you think Catholics should dance? And what do you think?
What hornet's nest are you trying to thwack right now?
That's exactly right. No, it's a meme. Like, I hear that from both sides. I'm too sanguine for any other answer than heck yes. And my context is like, I wish that I had learned kind of these cultural elements, these religious elements that draw our eyes upward to the divine, rather than, I think, engaging in dances or behaviors or in dress or something that I think actually is kind of a debasement of the beauty of what it means to be a human. Yeah. And so I think that like everything right there, as we're kind of talking about, just that raise our eyes, I think is so good, true, and beautiful. And it's so obviously oriented to Christ. And I think it's great.
I think that there's like, I think when being rebellious and like rebelling against a beauty standard becomes mainstream, then it's not rebellion anymore. But we're in that kind of stage one of my friends likes to call it the Walmartification of the world, which I think is so smart. But but it's one of those things where it's not to actually be beautiful and to strive towards beauty. And I don't mean just like perfect hair and makeup and wearing a ball gown. I mean like carrying yourself with goodness and trueness.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, dressing beautifully is an act of charity for the people around you, and the comporting yourself with beauty and trueness, right? Like it's a good thing. And it's people are drawn to that, not because of your cachet, but because it is a value that the transcendentals, like they crave in their own lives. And so like, I'm really hopeful that as we're here in St. Louis doing these things, that the people that are being exposed to it for the first time want to stay and want to build and are like motivated to orient their lives into such a way where we live in a Catholic community that does all of these arts and cultural things on a very normal basis. And it's like not a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you know, Elizabeth, the best part about having you on is that there's at least another 10 hours to talk about, but that's why you can always come on again. So where can people find what you're writing about, what you're up to? What are the best places for people to see what you're doing?
So I used to be on Instagram, and I got off Instagram like pretty aggressively as much as I could. I may be inspired again. When I first moved out here, I started a channel called Liz in St. Louis. And
on YouTube?
On Instagram.
Okay, I was going to be like, you hid this from me, but okay,
no, I hid that from me too. So I had that, but the best place to find things, and I'll try to write more regularly, is on my Substack, which is just Elizabeth Vennari at Substack, whatever that is. And now that we're getting these conversations started, there's more things to write about, I guess. So I'll try to be better about that.
Yes, including the ball, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
Waiting for that one. So. Man, always such a pleasure. Friends, please check out Elizabeth's writing. Like I said, I have never had such fun just like reading some stuff, just like taking like 5 minutes out to like have an adventure. It's a lot of fun. We definitely want to hear about your own experiences, especially if you're in St. Louis. Also, maybe you're new, maybe your family's been here forever, because it seems like every other person I meet's been like, yeah, my grandpa's like right down the road and stuff. So please don't forget to comment. Love to hear your stories. And of course, like the video, share the podcast far and wide. If you'd like to support the channel, very much appreciate that. Please go on and click that join button below to become a channel member, or check out the Patreon. That's patreon.com/GladTradPodcast. And of course, until the next time, God bless you and may it keep you. Adios.